So I'm curious, are there any like software tools you use in the course of your business? Like whether it's paid or free, just in general, for any step of your buying and selling process, what services have been the most helpful to you?
Once I started getting more than like 2 or 3 deals in the pipeline, I started using free Podio still to this day, just to kind of keep track of the name, the size of the parcel, kind of the stage it's in. And that's about it. And then, I mean, I still use a free Google Voice. I was buying in my name for the first probably 10 months. And then I finally switched to a LLC, but I mean, I try and keep it super simple, super cheap. I'm cheap in general, but I think we try and overcomplicate things. And I mean, I have a Wix.com website. I mean, super easy. And I still get submissions. I mean, but
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. You don't have to spend a ton of money to make stuff work. How much money were you working with when you started out? Like, were you just pinching pennies, or did you have a big slush fund at your disposal?
So I started with that $6,600 out of the 401k and started just mailing. And then, when deals would come through, I would fund as needed, or I borrowed I borrowed $5,000 from my buddy at 20%. Wow. I was giving my friends and my brother-in-law later 20%. Now I dropped down to 15, but if anybody's out there looking for deal, I was just shoestring budget. I mean, and that, again, I didn't have money for a $300 LLC. I mean, no assets to protect and minimal, PO box just to keep a little anonymous. But hey, it's worked for me.
Yeah, I just had a coaching session yesterday where we were talking about the LLC, and a lot of people starting off, they think that they got to do all this stuff to become an official business. And obviously this is not legal advice. It wasn't legal advice that I was giving them at all, obviously, but I was just telling them, in my opinion, right now, you're just trying to get proof of concept. You're just trying to get to your first deal. So unless and I said, talk to your, legal professionals and your tax professionals. But if you don't have that many assets to protect, the likelihood of something happening on a vacant land parcel that you bought for $1,000 to $5,000 or less isn't that huge. So I just was letting them know, hey, you don't have to get an LLC right out of the gate. You can just buy properties in your personal name. And I was telling them that I wish that I did that, because when I first started my land business, I started in Indiana, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know what the future of my land business was going to become. And now I've switched everything to Florida. So I started off with an Indiana-based LLC that I don't use anymore, but I paid money with Rocket Lawyer to get it set up, and it was wasteful. So again, you got to have, everybody has a unique situation, and you got to talk to the right professionals about your unique situation. But for a lot of people out there, it might be a good option just to buy things in your personal name to get a couple deals under your belt and then figure it out from there.
The only reason I even put it in an LLC is so my wife wouldn't have to come to closings to sign off on the property. I mean, she was getting more annoyed than I was. So
that's awesome.
That's the only reason, really. And just to be anonymous-ish.
It gives some separation there. Well, hey, I wanted to ask you, Andrew, for those who want to go full-time, but they feel stuck in their day job, like everybody has different circumstances, but bills are bills and they're not fun. Why do you think that people get into that situation? How do you think that they can get out? I mean, you took, you had a great job, you were in a great situation, and you were able to transition out within 9 months. So I guess this is a two-part question. One is why do you think that people get caught up in that situation where they emotionally feel stuck, where, when you remove their emotion out of it, they can easily just leave, or they can just figure out a very clear game plan. And then a second to that, how did you personally do it? What was your thinking process? And did you deal with any personal anxiety? What was your process there?
Financial security is a real thing, and to be uncomfortable, and no one wants to go down financially, right? And I didn't have any kids. We're expecting, but my bills aren't going to get any cheaper than they are now. And my kids' daycare bill is not going to get any cheaper than it is now. So I said, this needs to be the time that I start. And so I just went full bore. But I think someone mentioned, people do it out of comfort. They're not uncomfortable enough. I was very, very uncomfortable and just loathed what I was doing. Yeah, it provided, but I didn't hop out of bed every morning wanting to jump into surgery. I mean, it was cool. It wasn't super hard, but I almost felt like I was doing my company a disservice as well, just by not giving it my all. And I think just the fear of failure as well. Honestly, I don't think I'd be sitting here if I didn't have the clarity of the steps to take through Seth's blog. I mean, that's why I'm so like Seth, but because I'm one of those calculated people that need those steps kind of laid out for me to make that leap of faith. And at one point, I got so uncomfortable. I just said, no one's going to show up on my doorstep with financial freedom. So I just bit the bullet. I mean, what are all these people talking about? It must be real. So I got to try it now, or I'm going to be 60 regretting it. And man, I'm so glad I did it. Like, this is like a dream come true. I mean, my biggest goal was to be self-employed. I wouldn't say I'm financially free through like passive real estate, but self-employment was the biggest goal at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just obsessed with land.
That's so cool, man. It's so good to hear your story. I mean, it's just a breath of fresh air to hear another example of somebody who kind of made it and just took the risk and it worked out. It's awesome.